Good afternoon, everyone. Well, today is the 30th of June. You might not be seeing this on the 30th of June, but if you are, then you'll know maybe that two deadlines are ending today, and I want to talk about how they will affect you. First one in the UK is the stamp duty holiday ends, and I've said they're long live tax on property buyers. I don't agree with stamp duty, as you've probably gathered. Taxing people who want to do their own thing and buy a property and don't want to rely on the government to house them, they shouldn't be taxed so heavily. But the tax is there, and the government very rarely and the Treasury very rarely reduce or withdraw taxes. Don't forget VAT in this country, I think, started at it was around about 5%. I remember it, then 7.5, 10, 12, 15. Now it's 20%. It's a fifth of everything or most of the stuff that we buy. So they're not going to pull back stamp duty. And the other one is that today is the deadline for most European Union citizens to apply to live permanently in the UK as settled residents. There's been a bit of confusion about this because there was a scheme a couple of years ago, but this, I think, has been superseded by this scheme. So let's talk about the stamp duty exemption for home buyers. Paying tax on property which costs more than £250,000 is coming to an end. It was, I'm sure my solicitor will be happy about that, because my solicitor has been working flat out almost 7 days a week, and he's 70 years old for the past few months. So I don't know about stamp duty holiday. He's going to need a long holiday himself after this. And, I put some figures down there of what stamp duty actually costs, but it was going to end in March. And then they extended it to June to give people more time to complete. And it's been a mad rush for everyone. It's pushed up prices of houses. Everyone's been paying really ridiculous prices, more than they would save on stamp duty just to get a house. So they might pay $50,000 more for a house to save, $10,000 on stamp duty. It really has gone ridiculous. And considering that we've just gone through, or we're still in a recession, maybe the worst recession for 300 years, and the countries of, most Western societies are effectively bankrupt and living on borrowed credit or printed money, a bit like, when you're taking out one credit card to pay another credit card. That's what the governments are doing. Considering all that, it's really surprising that property prices have gone up so much. People still have the confidence to buy, and the stock market is booming as well. It's at the highest level ever. And it's been going on like this for since 2008-9. So it is crazy what's going on. So the stamp duty. To consider this. You would pay on a property of between 900,000 and 1.5 million. You'd pay 10% stamp duty, and if you're an investor, you pay an additional 3% surcharge. 900,000 sounds like a lot of money, but in the London area, you'd often pay around £1 million for a decent house in the suburbs, a 3-4 bedroom house in some areas of the suburbs. And so it's not a lot of money, and young people are borrowing fearlessly there because interest rates are so low. They're taking out mortgages of £500,000, 600,000, no problem. They're just going for it. Well, good luck to them. I hope it works out. But do take a long-term fixed rate, because I think with these inflationary pressures coming in, interest rates will inevitably have to go up. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. The Fed in America said they'll do it, and the Bank of England will probably also need to push up rates to slow down things, because inflation is definitely here. It might not be in the official figures, which are still saying around 2%, but we know when we go to shops and buy stuff, it's all going up in price. I heard a guy moaning in the shop yesterday, so everything's gone up in price, or they have smaller packages for the same price. And he's right. People are not stupid. They can see what's going on, and things are going up, definitely. And that's due to perhaps the pandemic, the lockdown, the cost of shipping stuff from China's, gone through the roof. But materials, raw materials, oil and these sorts of things, timber, and lots of commodities have also risen in price, which is causing underlying inflation. So the stamp duty is something that, if you've missed it, you've missed it. You can't do anything about it. How will it affect things? Will there be a slump in the market now? Well, in truth, nobody really knows when property, or for that matter, the stock market, will peak. But, the bull run usually lasts for around 10 to 12 years. That's the maximum these things go on for. A bull run is when things are going up. A bear run is when things are going down. So a bull run is what's been happening for the last 10, 12 years in the property and stock market. And they usually only last for 10 or 12 years. We've passed that deadline since the last slump. So things are due for a correction. How bad that will be, we don't know. Nobody knows. I mean, the thing is that the governments around the world have been printing money, quantitative easing, creating money out of thin air, trillions of dollars. Nearly all the dollars that have ever been printed have been printed in the last year in America. So this has prevented a slump and a recession, which was due. Recessions sound bad, but in some ways they get rid of the fat, and it's a bit like nature, isn't it? You know, the strongest survive, the oldest in the herd get left behind to be eaten by the lion, and then the herd then gets stronger. That's the way nature survives. It survives because you're left with the strongest and fittest. You know, the biggest lion gets the strongest woman and creates the lioness and creates the strongest cubs. It's the law of nature, and the government is trying to prevent the law of nature. They're like King Canute, trying to hold back the tide, sitting there saying, I want to hold back the tide. I don't think they will succeed in the long run. They're preventing a slump at the moment. It's politically good. You know, the governments say they can't afford for it to have a property slump or a stock market slump. It will be disastrous. But so far they're holding it back. Now, an estate agent friend of mine, very nice lady who's been doing well, she's had her best quarter ever, say that she's concerned that all the people that she had on a list that wanted to buy, 90% of them bought already. So they've got their property now, they've rushed to buy it. So it's sort of squeezed in a year's market into 3 months, and they've bought their properties. So are they going to buy again? We don't know. The government haven't made it attractive for buy-to-let investors with additional taxes, additional red tape to deal with. And so I don't know what the market's going to do there. I mean, most investors I know are holding back on buying because they think there will be a slump. But as far as first-time buyers and residential buyers, a lot of them have done that already. However, Nationwide say that that people will still continue buying. And don't forget, a lot of the country is not really that affected by the stamp duty holiday. So in the Midlands and the north of England, Scotland, it doesn't make a lot of difference. Obviously in the London and the South East, where properties, the average house, even in the suburbs of London, you're not going to get much for less than around £500,000 or 600 and something $1,000. And it's the same in lots of parts of America as well. So that it might not affect the most of the country, but we have to see what happens. The other thing is the furlough scheme has come to an end. This government support for businesses to keep their employees at home doing nothing, paid for by us, the taxpayers, that's coming to an end soon, I hope. And then we will see a lot more unemployed people around, and that could precipitate a bit of a slump, a bit of a fall in demand. And we're coming to the winter. I know it's midsummer, but as the nights get longer and it gets darker outside, people just don't go out and buy houses. So we might see a slowdown there. Now, the other thing I said is that the EU settlement scheme deadline is coming to an end, and that's it's called the European Union Settlement Scheme, the EUSS. But people are seriously concerned that thousands of people will have missed this deadline. So if you're an EU citizen living in London, in the UK, then you can still apply for this and on the government website. And the government said they will be lenient. They're going to allow people with a reasonable excuse to still apply late. I don't think they want to start deporting people. But if you haven't applied and your scheme is not in the system, and I know there are hundreds of thousands of schemes in the system, but at least then you're legal. If you're not in the system, then effectively you could be working illegally. You could be barred from taking any benefits and all sorts of things. So. And even medical treatment. So you need to get this done. You've had a couple of years to do it now, so there's no real excuse for this. So if you need to see an advisor, go and see an immigration advisor, or just get it done. And there's more details on my other blog. So I put a link up there. You can go to that. But by the end of May 21, 5.6 million people had applied for this scheme. So you wonder why you can't get to see your doctor. 5.6 million people had applied for this scheme, far more than expected. And, in March 2019, there were 3.7 million living in EU's citizens living in the UK, but we don't know the real figures because people can come and go under free movement. We're out of the European Union now, and this is what industry now is complaining, that there's this sort of lack of staff. So how will it affect UK residents? Well, I'm not an EU citizen, it's not going to affect me, mate. Well, the BBC has reported, and lots of people reported that only in the Times yesterday, that there's a big labour shortage. There's a massive shortage of labour in the UK in various sectors, hospitality and the building industry. So, how will that affect things? I mean, I put here the Chief Executive of HomeServe, Richard Harpin, said the shortages were pretty bad across the country, not just in construction but in other trades. And he wants the government to put more trade jobs on the government shortage list. And the shortage list is designed to attract the brightest and the best from around the world in occupations that we need and will benefit the economy, like doctors, nurses, scientists. And I know that there's a hospitality shortage sector as well, and I know that we're probably having to wait longer for our latte in the morning because there's a shortage of staff in restaurants and coffee bars. But in the long run, it doesn't really benefit the economy just continuing to import cheap, low-cost labour. It drives down wages for local people. And yes, it's good in a way. It gives that short-term fix, that short-term sugar fix, that dopamine hit. Yes, the economy's moving. We've got lots of low-cost labour in and it's keeping costs down. But in the long run, it means that we're not training up the people that we need to train locally. And then you've got a lot of unemployed people sitting around doing nothing, drawing benefits, draining the economy. So it doesn't benefit people. And also the people that are on low wages don't pay a lot of tax. In this country, you don't start paying tax till you've earned £12,500 a year, which is not far off the minimum wage. So if you're on the minimum wage, you're hardly paying any tax at all. So how is that benefiting the economy? It's not. It's a big myth. It's a lie that it benefits the economy. It doesn't. So if they're not paying any tax, who is paying for their medical treatment? Who's paying for their children to go to school? Each child at school costs £5,000 a year, roughly, £4,000 to £5,000 a year. So if you've got 2 children at school or 3 children at school, £15,000 a year, and you're not paying any tax, how does that benefit the economy? It doesn't. Also, low-paid workers, and I've met them, can benefit from benefits. They can get other tax benefits from the government. So in a way, they're a draw on the economy. Those are the people that are going to need government housing. They're going to need more help. And then if they bring their parents over and their parents are sick and they're in hospital, how does that benefit? It doesn't. It doesn't benefit the economy. So the government is right to say that we need certain people from abroad, but only the people that will benefit the economy and in the long run and pay their taxes. Now, I know that in the second generation, the third generations, immigrants then will start paying for themselves and their children will grow up and become the scientists and the doctors. Yeah, we know that. Immigrants do very well in this country, always have done. But you have to draw the line somewhere and say, well, this group of in the past, before the European Union, before the free movement of labour, the government only wanted to give work permits to people that they needed for the country. But then when the EU expanded, it was like a free-for-all. It was like everyone could just come in and do what they wanted. And that was uncontrolled immigration, which has not really benefited the economy. So that's my little rant on immigration. But, we know that the laws of supply and demand at the moment means that where there's a shortage, prices will rise. And we will be paying more for tradespeople, and the price of materials, as I was saying with the inflation, is also rocketing. So any jobs you need doing around the house, extensions, building work, is going to cost more. And I look around and I see lots of building work going on, lots of extensions being built, because it is becoming so expensive to move. So people prefer then to build loft extensions, wraparound extensions, really doubling the size of their houses in most cases. And there's a lot of that going on at the moment. But that gets people back to work. So that's what the government wanted. That's why they had these stamp duty holidays and stimuluses. But it has become almost impossible to find handymen to do small jobs, plumbers, builders, electricians and other workers, because when the lockdown happened, a lot of EU workers just handed their keys back to the landlord and said, goodbye, I'm going back. and I'm going to sit this one out at home. And you can't blame them. Why would they sit here paying rent if they're not working? So that's what's happened. And what some experts are saying is that, anecdotally speaking, many of those have not yet come back. And maybe with these restrictions now, they might not be able to come back. So that's what's going on in the world at the moment. The other thing is that the Inland Revenue are planning to investigate, according to the Times yesterday, 13,000 possible breaches of COVID aid schemes. These were schemes that enabled businesses to draw lump sums, grants, the bounce back loans and all these sorts of things, which I know anecdotally were abused. So that now, finally, a year later, the government, maybe some of these were abused. So they're waking up now and starting to investigate people. But many of those people will be probably long gone. So we'll have to see what happens there. Now, have you ever thought about getting into property? We've talked a lot about property, but have no money or don't know how. Well, some friends of mine are running a live training this weekend, 2nd to the 4th of July. It's called Multiple Streams of Property Income, and it's a free event. You go along there, they'll go through all the various schemes that you can do, like no money down schemes, rent to rent, buy to let, buy, refurbish and rent out, buy, refurbish and sell. All these things are covered. And also things like serviced accommodation, which can be very profitable. And all these things are covered during this weekend event. Now, obviously, they go through each sector and then they offer you a more detailed course during that weekend. So, this is free, but don't be surprised if they say, well, if you want to go into this aspect of it deeper, you want to do a mastermind or something, then you would be offered. But there's no obligation there. So you can register for that training. I've been in it myself. It's really very good. It gives you a very good overview without spending a load of money, first of all, and then deciding, well, what interests me? Am I more interested in refurbishing properties? Am I more interested in being a buy-to-let landlord? Or I've got no money, so can I do rent to rent? Can I do joint ventures? All these things will be covered in that weekend. So it gives you a great overview of the market. And then you can decide what you want to specialize in. And then you can zoom in on what suits you, what suits your pocket, what suits your lifestyle and your philosophy. So go for that. There's a guy called Kevin McDonald there. He's a great guy, really enthusiastic. It's a lot of fun. There'll be a lot of laughs there. And that's running. So I'll put a link up there. Click on that link and join that yourself. Now, if you've enjoyed this, please do click the like button, whatever media you're watching it on, and share it with your friends. And you can also follow me on social media. And I'm offering, if you want to become financially free, then do like most of the successful people I know who have a coach. All the wealthy people I know have, when they need something, they go for a coach. They learn how to do it through coaching, through training, through additional training. Now, most people don't do any further study after leaving school or university, but you must do this. You must continue to learn all the time, continuous learning. Even Warren Buffett, in his nearly 90 now, he says he's always learning, he's always reading, he's always learning new things. And that's what you do to keep your mind sharp and keep yourself going. So I'm offering 3 Wealth Accelerated Discovery coaching calls to 3 people in the next week. So click at the link below if you're interested in doing that. So thanks for everyone who joined me here. Thanks to people who joined me on Facebook Live. And I can see there Tracy there from Saigon, who says the market is booming in Vietnam as well. And we know that in Asia, things are really taking off in parts of Asia. But how you get into that market, I don't know. But Tracy said it's going crazy in Saigon. So good luck to you. I know her family's into property, so great, good luck, and I hope you're making loads of money. But if you want to get into property here, there is a free course available this weekend. Thanks for listening, and have a great evening. Bye for now.